distracting with my eyes looking over here. Also, I probably will not be able to record this all in one sitting, so the lighting might look a little different at some point in the video. The lighting's a little bit weird right now because I'm filming during the day, and I usually either film early morning or at night. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, here we go. So the interview starts out with Sergeant Bill Porty, and then it just kind of goes back and forth between Porty and Pickton. Bill Porty says, "Who was it on the phone?" "Some lady, I guess." "Lady? Oh, do you know her name?" "Not offhand." "Do you know it was a lawyer?" "Yeah." "How do you know it was a lawyer?" "Because I was talking to her yesterday." "Oh, okay." The sergeant makes some notes. "Excellent. All right. Now I can imagine, like I said to you, what I'm hoping to achieve here today, Rob, is simply to have a better understanding of this entire investigation, and quite frankly, to have a better understanding of you as an individual and as a person, because the person sitting there right now is important. I don't know whether or not you sometimes ask yourself what kind of person you are, but, well, I'm just a big man. That's all I got to say. Robert Pickton laughs as he says this. "You're just a big man, okay? One of the things that I've got to do is obviously go over all this stuff with you. But before I do that, there are some other things that I need to cover so that I have a better understanding of you. Now you're comfortable then with having spoken with your lawyer. You're happy with what your lawyer said to you?" "Yeah." "Okay. Do you understand what your lawyer said to you?" "Yeah." "Okay. Because generally their advice is not to talk to the police, okay?" "That's right." Now, not unlike when I guess in the early 80s, you were involved in an investigation with the police, and you made a decision at that time to go and show the police where a number of cars were buried, right? You were cooperative, right? Do you remember that? Yes, but there were no vehicles buried. Pardon me. There was no vehicles ever buried. Oh, okay. My understanding was that. I'm just going on what I was told, and I guess the reason I'm telling you is that simply to underscore that. My brother was beaten. Your brother was beaten. Yes. Okay, I'm not sure what you're talking about. That's here nor there. Alright, let me say this, I guess. This might be a good way to put it, Rob. You were told by your lawyer not to talk to anybody, right? Yes. And then you spoke with another police officer the last couple of days. Lily's. Yeah. Okay, and Rob was mad at you for doing that. Oh no, I'm sorry. Your brother, Dave, was mad Did she die at home or in the hospital? She died in the hospital. Were you able to be there with her when she died? While I was around, I didn't know where I was. You weren't able to go to the hospital and be with her though, because you were working or taking care of the farm. On the farm, you were taking care of the farm. Yeah. What about your dad, Rob? He died back in 77, January 1st. My mother was born in March 20th, 1912. Dad was born in 1896. I don't know his birth date, but he was born in England. Bill Porty asked, "Oh, is Pickton an English name?" Yes, my mother was born in Saskatchewan. So was my mother, says Bill Porty. So was my grandmother. In Raymond's Creek, says Robert Pickton. Small, it must be a small town, just outside Swift Current. Okay, did you get there often? How did you get along with your dad as a child? How did you get along with your dad as a kid? Good, says Pickton. Were you around when he passed away? Yes. How did he die? Old age. Okay. He had a pretty good life, didn't he? Yeah. So your dad died first, and then your mom died after of cancer. She was alone. Was she lonely? Pickton says yes. Porty says it's kind of funny. Half-heartedly, I always joke around with my friends about how I'm gonna die. You know, I've always kind of said, when I die, I hope it's listening to you two driving on the freeway, and I hope it's quick. And he snaps his fingers. In December last year, I was out driving on the northern part of the island on my way up to help out on an investigation, and I was listening to you two, and I lost control of my car and went into the rocks and rolled my car a couple of times, and I still can't figure out why I'm here, because I probably should have died that day. there's no gas. Now you can get 5 if you can get $2 or $3 of gas, 2 or 3 gallons of gas. You're lucky, because there was a gas for, different pen pals all the way around, going from place to place to place to place, meeting all these people. I was gone for 6.5 weeks. I was engaged, but she couldn't leave her job and I couldn't leave my job. I had to get back to the farm. So she's probably married off by now and everything else. Her name was Connie Anderson. She's probably married off. She got kids and everything else. That's a long time ago. He pauses for 20 seconds. Yeah, she's probably married off. He pauses for a minute. But I had to get back to the farm. I enjoyed myself, and I never get there. I never got down to the States again. But that's life. Bill 40 says, you said that you couldn't rent a car and they were giving cherry pies away. What do you mean by that? George Washington chopped a cherry tree down and giving cherry pies away. Every time you go into the store, somebody gotta give me a cherry pie. Bill 40 says, okay, did you have any cherry pie? Yeah. Do you like cherry pie? Oh, it's alright. Next to rhubarb. My favorite is pumpkin, I was gonna say. Robert Pickton says, I don't eat any vegetables. 40 says, you don't eat vegetables at all, just meat. Yeah. What's your favorite kind of meat? Pork. Bill 40 laughs. That's a silly question, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. So how did you meet Connie? Pen pals, writing, back and forth. And then you hooked up with her down there. How long did you spend with her? 5 weeks. Did you enjoy it? Yeah. When did you get engaged? Down there, like right away, or yes, like automatic love, you just knew this was the girl. Yeah. What did you look like? Tall, blonde, very nice. 5'10" or 11. Heavy set, nice size, nice body, nice. 140 pounds. So you guys were together for 5 weeks. Yes. And then she said she couldn't come up. No, she was supposed to come up, but she never did. What happened? Her parents wouldn't let her come, or what? No, she couldn't get time off work. What kind of work did she do? She worked in, she works at the Bay. She was, head one in the Bay. Oh, so she had a big job kind of thing. She wanted me to stay down there and I couldn't stay down there. Why not? Because I had to run the farm. What about Dave or your sister? No, not my sister. She knows nothing. My brother knows nothing. Did you explain to them that you met the girl of your dreams? Well, shit happens. It does happen. So when you and Connie were down there having, tell me. That's in Pontiac, Michigan, Robert Pickton says. Yeah, that's right. Okay, General Motors has a plant there, I think now. Cheryl's side, sorry. What he's saying about the inhaler is that it was evidence for one of the missing women. They found one of the missing and murdered women's inhaler in a car that was on the farm. Big thing in the paper. Heard about missing. Dinah's not missing. Yeah, I know that. I know that too. That's pretty spectacular though, wasn't it? I know Cheryl, said Robert Pickton. I know Cheryl. The one that was in the paper there. I'm sorry, I'm confused. Pickton says, the one that was in the paper. The one that was worried about her. Oh, worried about Dinah, you mean? Yeah, I've known Cheryl for a lot of years. I know her for a long, long time. I know her mom through friends. Forty asks, have you ever had sex with her? No, through friends. I knew her mom. How long have you been with Dinah? Said Bill 40. 7 or 8 years. Oh yeah, do you consider her one of your best friends? Nice person, nice person, nice person. I never had sex with her. Bill 40 says, you've never had sex with her for 7 years? Really? Wow. You don't believe me? You can ask her. No, I don't. I'm not gonna say I think you're lying to me. It just seems that's an awful long time to be with one girl and never to have sex. I might help people out, said Pickton. I try to help people out. Try to help people out and stuff. What else are you doing for money? Bill 40 asks. Who, me? Yeah. I just want to get doing bigs. What else? 40 asked. That's it, said Pickton. Now your brother said in the paper something about buying cars. Pickton said I buy cars from Vancouver, the Vancouver Police Department. I buy all the vehicles from the Vancouver Police. I got a contract there. I get anywhere up to about 70 a year. 70 a year. I had that contract for about 4 years. For about 3 years, I guess. 4 years. About 3 or 4 years. 40 says, yeah, so what's the deal? You tow the vehicles for them or what? No. Just buy them. Just buy the ones that are up for salvage, up for scrap. And you buy it for other auctions here or there. Canada auctions and Able auctions and Ross auctions, and ship them out and just peel off whatever you don't want of them. Ship them out to the boneyard and the rest goes to. I just salvage whatever I can. The alternators, starters, this, that, little stuff. Maybe a good motor. If it's a half decent vehicle, then I bring it over to my place there, strip it out, pull the motor out, sell the motor. Too bad you can't refund lottery tickets or anything in them. And well, this one time, Pickton said, I got a vehicle there. It had $600 in it. That's alright. That's like winning the lottery. Chevy Astro minivan, and the back seat was folded together and it was lying right in there. But I'm going back about a year or two, almost 2.5, 3 years ago. 2 years, 2.5 years ago, it had blood all over the backrests and the seats and everything else. Now, whatever's took place, I don't have a clue, but life goes on. Well, when I took anything from the police department, they don't. Well, they said, we don't want anything back. We don't want nothing. So just take everything, bring everything over, and I sold the other one for $200 or $300 or whatever else. Bill 40 says, now, is it your practice to search these vehicles when you get them right away to see if they've mistakenly left anything? I bring so many vehicles in. I bring so much in. I go through about 150 vehicles a year. I haven't got the time of day to worry about one needle or one of this or one of that. One what? Did you say a needle? One needle. Needles or anything else or whatever, you know what I mean? I look at the radio or look at this or that. Look at the side, look at the vehicle shape or whatever. If I can use the front end, if I can use this part or that part or whatever. Did you ever go through the trunks or the glove boxes? Yeah, there's everything in them. Yeah, everything in them. Anything you want to get. You won't believe what you find in those things. You find this, you find that, inhalers, so on, so forth. It's outrageous. Outrageous. Mostly bras, tops, this, that, clothes, people sleeping in them. But now that they got tighter security at the compound, now they got security there 24 hours a day. Before they never had that. They used to take those stereos out, they'd take this out, take that out, and I just got a hold. Just got off the shelves or left maybe a good motor. So when you find that stuff, is it normal for you to put it in bags and send it to people? No, I never bother myself. If you bothered with every, you don't get any work done. God, you'd be doing it all day, I guess, eh? I mean, I bring 2 or 3 or 4 a day, and I haven't got the time of day to bother with it. So, this is me talking now. Basically, they just talking about that. That's for the lawyer. But anyway, like I said, you could take as I am, and take any which way you want. You could drag me up and down the road here, and that still doesn't make me remember anything. I remember dates, I remember this, I remember that, I remember faces or whatever. But I don't remember any of these people really. Really, honestly, I don't. Like, you can link me up with them, I'm charged, you can do whatever you want to do with me. That still doesn't make me a murderer, just because, but I don't know them. And as you guys can link whatever onto me, I can't help that, because that's your privilege. I got nailed to the cross. I'm just a plain little farm boy. I'm just myself. But again, I wouldn't change very much. If I had to do the whole thing over again, I'm myself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for living. And if I can, I'll take my life for any one of those people. And he's pointing to the board which has all the women's pictures. And then he starts crying. Just to have them alive. I'm so sorry. Bill 40 says, just shake my hand, okay? I want to make a deal with you here, right now, okay? It's okay, Rob. Don't apologize for anything. Don't apologize for who you are. We just shook hands, alright? We're gonna make a deal, you and I, okay? And then Bill 40 stands up. Robert Pickton continues to say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Bill 40 says, you don't need to apologize to me ever again, alright? Because I accept you for who you are. I don't want you to change anything, who you are. We're gonna make a deal, you and I, right now. Pickton So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over some of this evidence with you right now, because girl number 4 here, Mona Wilson, was at your house. Pickton says, I don't know. 40 continues, hear me out please. I know, I already know the answer, and I told you I'd give you my word. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm here on video. I give my word in front of sister did what she did to you. He's talking about how his sister left the farm and left Robert Pickton to take care of it, and how she went off to school. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because this is getting really long, and my camera is going to run out of memory. Bill Porty brings up the trailer where they found all the evidence, and he asks Pickton if he remembers all of the blood that was in the trailer. And Bill Porty says, you know, it's human blood. Lots of it. It's called bloodletting. Remember we talked earlier about special lighting for different situations that the police use. We talked about the special lights. It's the same mattress under different light. This mattress is in your trailer. Now some of the guys joke around. They call it a poodle because it looks like, the pattern looks like a poodle, but it's not. It's actually kind of sad because this is Mona Wilson's blood. So Mona's blood, huge blood pooling, is on this mattress. The experts say that would have rendered her unconscious, the amount of blood pooling here. Because they're experts, okay? I'm certainly not an expert, and neither are you. But I'm telling you what the experts say. He's the most respected guy in the province, and that's his expert opinion. This is the wall beside the bed. Now you lift the mattress up, and this is the wall. Alright, see this? This is called